Hey, welcome to Collaborative Leadership Part 2. Today we're going to talk about what does it require of you as the leader of a team? What does it require of you to be a collaborative leader? That is, what do you need to focus on? The first most important thing is it is going to require time. To be a collaborative leader will take more time than to be an autocratic leader or any other style of leader. It will require more meetings. It will require more time on a one-on-one with your team. It will simply require more accountability and follow-up. It is time consuming. Now, hopefully in the first video, I will have convinced you enough to know that that time investment is definitely worth it. The outcomes far outweigh the time investment it needs and the attention it needs from us. Ultimately, it is a way more productive form of leadership. So let us not think that the time investment it takes should stop us from going down this road of collaborative leadership. But I want to be upfront with you. It will take your time. Therefore, it requires us to be convinced it's the right way to go. Inclusion, collaboration, engagement, releasing of decision making and empowering, giving away authority. You need to get convinced it's the right way to go, because as you get to that place where your team is really operating well in collaborative leadership, you're going to find that your time ultimately is more released because you've been more releasing, you've been more empowering. It will require time investment. So right now, I want you to begin to think about what you can do to release your time to give toward collaborative leadership. I want you to think about how you can raise that to the top of your priority list and put other things further down your list, so this becomes pretty much your number one focus as a leader. The second thing it's going to require of you is to tap into the intrinsic motivation of your team. Get to know your team, get to know what makes them tick, how you can best include them in the context of decision making. And as you do that, you will release their intrinsic motivation. The basic intrinsic motivation of every team member will be that sense of ownership. Everyone wants to feel like they're making a difference. Everyone wants to feel like their voice counts. Everyone wants to feel like it's their ownership that it makes a difference. And by being a collaborative leader, you're tapping into that intrinsic motivation. So you as a leader having conversations with people and making it clear that you want them to speak up. I have some golden rules when I start teams, and one of those when it comes to meetings is this: I make it clear they're in the room because I value them. They're in the room because they have something we need. Therefore, they must speak up. I will not have a meeting where some people do not share the voice. If they do not share the voice, I've made it clear to them, then they're redundant to the team. They are given a chance to be in that meeting because we value their voice. I want to tap into the intrinsic motivation they have to contribute towards shaping the future of something. Some people will feel a little shy to contribute. They find it easier just simply to listen. Some people need space to think. And now you can help them do that by priming them before the meeting. We'll go into that on another occasion. But you as a leader, it's your role to tap into the intrinsic motivation of every person in your team. It requires us as a leader also to be skilling our team. I talked about this in the last video, that it's a prime opportunity for us to be discipling our people, because things come up, behaviors emerge, personality quirks come to the surface, and we can help shape them. But it also requires us to be skilling them. What does it mean to contribute to decision making? What does it mean to do their role better? What does it mean to run great meetings? We can be speaking in to the skill of our team, not just the soft skills, the behaviors of our team, the shaping of, and discipling. But you as the leader of the team, it is your role to set boundaries for your team, to be clear in how you do leadership, that there are boundaries, things that are acceptable, things that are unacceptable, ways to communicate that are better, ways to communicate that are not so helpful. And you build the culture of your team by speaking into those things. Sometimes you speak into it to the group. Sometimes you need to shape within the group context. Very often, you need to do that in a one-on-one environment. But there is no doubt, as you as a leader, you will build culture by the things that you allow and by the things that you deliberately reinforce. And so you have a role to play in shaping the team. And that can be sometimes an exhausting process. It can be sometimes an emotionally draining process to know that you need to be on your game in terms of speaking into your team. But it's an important part of what it requires to be an effective, collaborative, team-building leader. The other thing it requires from you as a team is to lean on, to be a collaborative leader, is to lean on your motivating and inspiring the team more than your controlling nature. You know, a collaborative leader needs to move away from simply controlling tasks and controlling outcomes. There needs to be a building of trust, setting out of boundaries, an empowering of your team. So you're trusting them to get on and frame certain parameters, to make certain decisions. There has to be the building of that trust factor, so you're not controlling outcomes quite as much, but rather you're motivating and inspiring. You're showing you believe in them once the parameters are set. It's a different tone, it's a different voice. The other thing that's required of a leader who's collaborative is to constantly be breaking down silos. When you're working as a team, yes, it's important that a person knows that this is the thing they're running with, that this is the department they're leading, this is the team they're leading. Their focus is going to be on operations or on worship, and they need to run with that. But they also need to know they sit on a team that's more important than the team they run, because the common voice, the united collaborative decision making of that team together is so powerful for the organization. And so they therefore need to know that they mustn't just think departmentally. They need to think whole picture. You can help shape that. You can help remind them of that with the language we use, and help them realize that right now we're not in our silos. As I mentioned, building trust and security in the team is important. That takes time. You need to show yourself as a trustworthy leader. I very much believe in building consistency and integrity. There is no substitute to a leader being a leader of integrity. There are times where I will sometimes stick with a course of a process or a decision that may not have been the best, but it's not wrong, simply because I think consistency trumps us constantly second guessing and rethinking and changing our decision. Now, that can't always work. If you become very aware you've made a bad decision, please adjust it. It's okay to do so. But what I'm trying to say is perfect decisions aren't as important as consistency of continuing to remain integrous to a decision a group has made. Integrity and consistency builds trust. The support you give of your team's decision builds trust. The fact that you might say to them from time to time, hey, you decide, you choose, builds trust. It shows that you believe in their ability to do so. You're standing with them through difficult times builds trust. That's where you have to wear the hat of the carer, the pastor, the father or the mother figure, not just the leader of processes, that you would care for them, be there for them, your attention toward them, your turning up and being present in their life. It builds trust. Trust is critically important to the confidence that people have in being able to air their voice that can sometimes sound contrary, but in an environment of trust, you know it comes from an attitude and a heart that is not bad, but is believing in the course of the future. We need contrary voices that come with the right attitude. If it comes from a wrong attitude, of course, we speak into that. It's all part of the process. But it has to be in the framework of trust. The other thing you have to do as a leader to create collaborative teams is to show that you're prepared to take risks. Because creativity, we breed that in the environment of the ability to take risks. If your team does not see you as a risk-taking leader, they are not going to be coming up with the most creative ideas. If they don't see that you're open to things that could be a bit on the edge, that's going to cost us something, that may fail, if they don't see that you would embrace that, they're not going to be coming up with the most creative ideas. And it's usually in that margin of risk, in that those creative thought processes that happen in the margin of risk, where you could be onto something that could reshape your future and accelerate what you're trying to do. It's a wonderful thing when you hit on something that opens a door that could accelerate the growth of a group, a team, your church, could accelerate the reach you have into a community. Just one idea can trigger that. I've seen that happen in terms of our approach to buying buildings and redeveloping of property and financial decisions. I've seen that happen in terms of the choice of people coming on team. So in terms of who we might choose, who we might select, sometimes going out of the box has created the best outcomes. Go there. You as a leader, it requires you to set that environment. It requires you as a leader to show that open communication is really important. So you as a leader need to be communicating openly and frequently. If there's anything that I've seen that has stopped collaborative leadership working well, it's been this one factor. It's been the factor that the leader is not good at communicating. It is better to over-communicate than it is to under-communicate. It is better to re-communicate something rather than assume that people got it the first time. If you're thinking, did I communicate that or did I not? Do it again anyway. It's better to repeat it than have not said it at all. Keep communicating frequently, regularly, and use every means possible. Face-to-face, by the phone, through email, written, in every possible way. Communication, I cannot state this strongly enough, is essential to collaborative leadership. The other thing it requires of a leader is to let people know that it's okay for there to be conflict. You will never come up with a fully constructive process of decision making if conflict is not allowed. Now there needs to be parameters to that, and we'll talk in a later video about how you handle conflict well, but it needs to be embraced. And we need to encourage diversity. We need to not be biased toward outcomes, or we need to not as the leader be biased toward a particular favorite area of work. We need to embrace all aspects of our organization. We need to embrace all aspects of the skill set that's brought before us and embrace diversity, reinforce that. Please don't fall for the fact that you've got a favorite department sitting in your team or a favorite person sitting in your team. You need to draw out every aspect, every personality, and the diversity of that team. So there we go. That's what it's going to require of you to be a collaborative leader. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.